Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Mining Experience series. This is a live podcast that invites professionals from the mining industry to discuss new technologies, address challenges, and share work experiences, and personal experiences too. My name is Paulina Gallego. I will be your host today. I'm a mining and metallurgical engineer from the National University of Colombia, and I've been with Promine for almost 1 year now as a technical support specialist. Here is also our co-host, Daniela. Daniela, how are you today?
Hi, Paulina, and thank you. Hi, everyone. My name is Daniela Jaimes, and I am the marketing coordinator here at Promine. I'm very excited to be here with you. Well, as we celebrate Women's Month, throughout the past weeks, we've got to know a lot of stories of different women in this industry to honor their efforts and we'll listen to their struggles and their successes. Today, in this episode, we will hear the testimony of two women from different backgrounds who will share their experiences and talk about the difficulties that women face being part of a largely male-dominated sector. We consider that it is vital that women's voices are heard for the mining sector to improve inequity and diversity and inclusion.
Although we can today witness that women have a greater participation in the mining industry, there are still paradigms that we must break. So Women's Month should be an occasion to raise our voices in favor of equity. It's not about demonstrating that gender with which we identify ourselves make us more or less qualified to perform any activity. It's about projecting that all men and women have the same capabilities to face the challenges of this industry. So we have the pleasure to have two special women as guests that are going to share their experiences in the mining industry from the academic and the professional fields. We have Eva Dierkes. She is a master's degree in mining engineering from Germany. And after moving to Canada, she worked a few years as a QC specialist in the video games industry. She joined Promine nearly 5 years ago as a QA specialist and has since then become the VP of Technical Services.
Welcome, Eva. And now we have Reem Codier. Reem is a mining engineer who graduated from McGill University. She acquired experience in material handling processes, drill and blast, and project management in her internships. She has also worked in Rio Tinto project management and controls, and currently works as Tetra Tech as a junior engineer consultant. She is also part of the board of directors of the Canadian Mining Games. Welcome, Reem.
And welcome, Eva, too.
And welcome, Eva, too.
Pleasure to be here.
We are so glad to have you as a guest.
Yeah. So, since we are talking about, women in mining, of course, the first question will be, what does being a woman in mining means to you? Why don't we go first with Eva?
Sure, thank you. It was something that I had not really thought about in and of itself, when I started or when I just did my first internships, until someone told me no, a cabin for changing for women, we don't have one. I think the bathroom over there works. That's when I realized that this is something that might be special in some form. And generally, I'm just happy to be part of the industry because I met incredible people. A lot of the women that I do meet are just, they bond together because there is just not that many. And so you run into them, they're like, oh yeah, welcome to the club. So I'm just very happy to be part of the industry. And nearly all of the people that I run into.
That's great. Thank you so much. Reem, can you tell us about, yourself?
Yeah, actually, it's very similar to what Eva said as well. I feel very lucky to be here because, since you're a kid and during all your life, you hear a lot of gender bias comments. And I feel like maybe if I had listened to them, I would have ended somewhere different. And I really love the mining industry, so I feel really lucky to be here. I'm very happy to be here as well. And to reply on that comment about the women in the mining industry, it's true that we have a lot of very supportive women who act as real mentors around us. Since I was a student, that was true. And I feel very, very lucky to be around them. And hopefully I can be a more like them in the future for younger students.
Yes, definitely. Thank you so much, Reem and Eva, for your appreciation. So I would like to say, everyone, that it's in this moment looking us in Zoom or in Facebook, that you can use the Q&A button if you want to, to ask any questions to our guests, or in the comment sections in Facebook too. So Reem, I would like to ask you, why did you choose this amazing, profession as your, for develop your career?
Actually, I kind of like always knew I wanted to be an engineer, because since I was, like, my father is a mechanical engineer, and since I was a child, he would show me like all the equipment and the design he would make, and he would be like, "Oh, I made that," and I always thought it was very cool, especially like they would be like huge equipment, like for mining and for like big industries like that, and I always thought it was so cool seeing the little humans, the little cars with a big tank, and I knew I wanted to be an engineer and work in an industry where they have, it's kind of like huge equipment, and I thought, what a better place for huge equipment than mining. And that's kind of like how I ended up here.
That's amazing. Well, yeah, and I think not always there is like a personal reason. For example, in my case, well, I mean, for a start or for select the career, always there are different options. For example, in my case, when I started, it was not because I was sure I wanted to do this, but when I started like studying and everything, I realized how amazing opportunities you are going to have in this profession, and it's amazing.
Yeah, that's exactly it.
And Eva.
Oh,
I was going to say, the experience for me is very different, because like I did not know that I wanted to become an engineer. My parents told me later that they thought that I should become an engineer, but they did not, impose anything on me from my like background. I was good in math and physics and whatever, but I just didn't find any job that I could even imagine doing when I was getting closer to graduating. And I was like, I have to do something. And I had no idea what I wanted to do. And in Germany, we have like a booklet that describes all of the jobs that you could learn as a trade or like study. I read the whole thing. I was like, nope, nothing for me. Obviously, that was not a choice. So I found basically a university that sounded fun to go to, more or less, and then was like, oh, I guess I'm gonna study this. And while I was like inscribing myself into it, I was like, ooh, what's the thing underneath the thing that I was reading? Literally like one lie down, which was geotechniques and mining. It had less chemistry. I was not that good at chemistry. So I started it not knowing what it is at all. Yeah. I had no idea what mining engineering could be. Mining is not a big industry in Germany. So I had never seen a mine. I didn't know we had mines in Germany. So I started it and I was like, okay. And then the professors were introducing like the different specialties. We had like 16 that were like under the same umbrella. And I started it, and they were basically telling me that I could make a good salary and travel the world. And I was like, okay, I'm going to stay here. This is fine. And learning more about it, I learned to like it. I learned to like it because I learned what it is, right? Yeah. Not because you're forced and have a Münchhausen relationship.
Yeah, I feel that, well, it's something that I find, well, in common in both of your stories is that you had parents that encouraged you to seek a career in science, in engineering in this case. I feel that it's really interesting that even when, we're women, our parents encourage us to go for things that might not be socially accepted, or now more than before, but socially accepted as something that women should be doing, and that we can still see in some countries. It's really beautiful seeing how families encourage women to grow. Well, talking about, let's say, empowering women, and all that it's been talked about during this month, Women's Month. What does Women's Month mean to you? Eva, do you want to go first?
Sure. with like a, I don't know, not so good point of view in the beginning. No, it's Women's Month was something that I had only learned about, I think, when I was 16 and living in Mexico, because this is not, I want to say, a thing in Germany. Women's Day, I read news on Women's Day in Germany. It was like a couple of headlines were there, but not, it's just not a big thing. And suddenly people congratulated me to Women's Day, and I'm like, excuse me, what are you talking about? When I was living there, and I was very confused and had to like learn about the background of it. And that made me more aware of other things. So I'm like, oh yeah, this is something that we do in order to raise awareness, which I then promptly forgot about again, because I was like, I'm aware of myself. But it's not the awareness of myself, obviously. And I ended up in engineering. I didn't know that at that point, but having just like awareness that I could do anything, I was raised that way. I was lucky to be raised that way. My parents are very open towards anything, so I never had to fight for it. But then I saw other friends of mine being like, oh no, but I want to study. And their parents were like, why do you want to study? Like, to get a career, thank you. And seeing that in other people, I was like, oh, okay, we have a reason to raise awareness. And so by now I'm like really happy that, for example, Promine is doing this. Thanks for all of your efforts.
Thank you. Rim, can you tell us about what you think about Women's Month?
Yeah, sure. Just like Eva said, I was not always aware of that there is a Women Month. I knew that there was an International Day for Women, but not necessarily a month. I only knew that like recently. But I think what it means for me is that it's a time to just step back, take a moment, and just celebrate the women around you, what they've accomplished, and just like see what's left to do and what everything they've done so far. Just to give an example, for example, I did the Canadian Mind Games as a participant 2 years ago, and there was a team that had no women in the team, and there are teams of like 16 people. So like out of 16 people, there is like absolutely 0 women. That's kind of like bad. And this year, all the teams had at least 1 woman, which is progress, but it's still not enough to only have 1 woman out of 16 participants, I think. And during Women's Day, I think that's the time where you have to like stop and like kind of like look around you and tell people around you, hey, these are the women in all the team. Hopefully next year we're going to see more faces. Let's try to do something to encourage more women to participate, things like that.
Thank you. Yeah, definitely. Well, just as Eva said, we were here probably we wanted to raise awareness, which is why we're doing all this stuff, especially because when we work in a, male-dominated sector, it's important to recognize those women that have fought against all these prejudices, against all these obstacles. Not everyone has supporting parents, open parents, unfortunately, and I feel that the more we visualize these struggles, the more we talk about this stuff, the greater the change, right? So yeah, I mean, even when it's little steps like going from no participants in the Canadian Mining Games, women participants, to going to at least 1, I feel that these efforts that we do are very important so that we can actually progress in this kind of stuff, right?
Yes, definitely. And I also want to add something to what Rim said, that it's something similar happened in my university. Well, right now I'm in Colombia, here in Latin America. And despite Colombia, it's a very mining country, I would say. At the beginning, for example, like 5-7 years ago, you were in classes where only you can see like 1 or 2 women. And definitely now it's not too much, but there is a little change right now that we can visualize, and that's amazing. So, Eva, or if you would like to answer first, or Rim, what do you love the most about what you do? Eva, if you would like to go first.
Okay, yeah, I can go first. I was like,
Okay.
just make sure that I don't try to accidentally talk over someone else. I mean, my job right now is mining adjacent, right? I'm the head of the software parts and the quality assurance parts of the company. Even though I know the mine design software that we're doing very well, I don't talk to clients very often anymore. So at least I don't, like, even though I don't have this direct contact anymore, I just, the like providing a service to other people and like making it the best that we can, I enjoy a lot. And having, as I'm now working more in quality assurance, I really like pointing out tiny mistakes. I mean, it's easy to see the big mistakes, right? You're like, oh, okay, you did this one wrong, no problem. But over time, I guess it comes with the job. You get like more and more pedantic and you're like, oh, but look, there's this tiny thing here. Can you please pay attention to these tiny things all over? And I don't know if I liked it before and therefore I now like it in my job, or if I just did it in my job so much that I now love doing it. But that's like one part. And the other part is just a little thing of just having a community of people that works well together. And that's also something that I had in my studies. We were not that many people that studied mining engineering in my university. We were like 10. We started off with 40 people in like different specialties, and we were 10 in my year for mining engineering. But it's a small crowd that is a good crowd. Like no one was like a real person that you dislike in some form or another. And specifically the women in the group were super fun and supportive of each other. So that at like the first day, when we all got into like the first classroom where all of the 40 people were together, it was just like, whenever another, like the first woman arrived somewhere, I was the last one because I was late. But everyone else came in, and apparently it was always like a little celebration. Yay, another woman, come and sit with us. So getting to our full 8 that we were in that year, which was 20%. It was a really big, good year for women in that specialty specifically. But everyone was celebrated. It was like, yay, we have another one, great. And all of them succeeded in getting the degrees. Some of them got PhDs, which will, lead into the area where they just have more people in the academic field, which I'm still hoping for because I only had male teachers. So maybe, some female teachers in there would be good. Not that I want to, but others do, I'm sure.
Definitely.
Yes.
Rim, can you? Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead, Daniela. Don't worry.
I will. But go ahead.
Sorry. I would like to add something to what Eva said, that I think it's very important because it's also something that maybe people don't realize in the academic aspect. I would say that especially in mining, it's sadly, for example, in my case, that there are not a lot of women that are actually right now as a teacher that can be an inspiration for us. There are a lot of women that are in the industry, obviously, and are occupying like important positions, and that's amazing. But I will say, like, from the academic aspect, that it's important too. So, Rin, also, I would like to ask you, what do you love the most about being a mining engineer?
Well, as Eva said, actually, there are a lot of things that Eva said that I relate to. So I feel like we kind of like similar experiences, but it's true that people in the mining industry are wonderful people. It's amazing to be around them. So that's really a big plus. And for my current job, I'm doing like projects, and I just love having kind of like a positive impact on people and in the companies that I work for. Like, for example, when I'm doing a project, I like to know that at the end of the day, my project is going to make that workplace safer or more productive or something like that. And even for the Canadian mining games, I like to know that, my efforts are going to make it so that the students and the sponsors are going to have a great weekend. If it's just like 2 days, but they're going to have, great experience for a weekend. So that's kind of like the thing that I love the most. But what I do, just like having kind of like a positive impact on people.
Perfect, thank you. We also would like to, oh, do you have something to comment, Paulina? No. Oh, sorry. We also wanted to ask you, well, just now that, for example, Paulina talked about that there's not much women, at least in the academic field, that you could look up to. Could you tell us about a woman you look up to and why? Rim, do you want to start?
Sure. Well, as I said before, I think women in the mining industry are very admirable people because they are very supportive of their peers and of just younger students, younger women in the industry. They've been very helpful since my first year with everything, with like school or applying for scholarships or internships or whatever. They just give you great advice and also give you the confidence to do it, because sometimes you're like, oh no, I'm not good enough, and just come and tell you they're good enough. So I really admire those women, and I think I owe it to them to kind of do the same to the younger women in my in the industry. I don't know if I'm doing it as well as them, but at least I'm trying. And as we talked about earlier, obviously our parents, I think they're very admirable people to just having let us know that we can do anything, and choose the profession that we want, and there's no profession for women, profession for men. It's like not a thing. Yeah, especially my mother, like she's always been encouraging to on that point to like do anything you want, and she's also a very determined person and like a doer, and I hope I can be more like her one day. So yeah, I think those are the people I admire the most, I think. Yeah.
Thank you. Eva, do you want to tell us?
Sure. There was also kind of a weird, as you've like pre-exposed me to some of these questions, and I was like thinking beforehand about it. I was like, oh, one. But then obviously not one. Like not obviously. Like there might be like one person out there where you're like, okay, no, this person is absolutely fantastic and it's helped me a great deal, which I don't feel I have like one singular one, but I have obviously great role models, as Rim said, my mother as well. She's fantastic in that she was a stay-at-home mom because that was the only option that she had, because daycare was absolutely horrendous in Germany. But before that, she worked as a technical assistant in the chemistry lab. And then she just like changed jobs to accommodate her lifestyle, right? It's just like, okay, I can do this job with what I have given. So making the best out of what you have, even if it's not maybe your dream job, it's just like, for what I have right now, this will help me and it makes me happy. So that's always something that I see as an important life lesson that I got from that side. Same with like my sister, who is doing HR things, and that's the best I always know to describe it, even though I know she's like a high level something. But she started studying something where she was not sure what she would do with afterwards either, and now got to have like an amazing career, which is really good to see in a field that's women dominated. She's like, no, all of my colleagues are female. I'm like, oh yeah, right. That's how that works. I was just like, I've forgotten about it. That's out there. And she's like, no, everyone is. Like, oh yeah, I have to keep that in mind when I talk with some people about jobs and their expectations of certain things. And then I also have just like peers that I met when I was at McGill that finished their degrees and got like amazing jobs. And I'm like, oh my God, you're doing great things out there. I would be not willing to invest that much time because I like huge time investments. Some jobs just take so much more out of you, I think, or they ask you to work on like different schedules, but I'm like, no, I would like to not do that. Thank you. But it pays off. Like it's hard work, but it pays off. And having these women out there doing this and being like, yeah, this is what you should be doing if you want to get there, and offering advice to other people in order to reach the same job or like same positions and higher or things like that. It's just amazing. So yeah. It's all of that.
Yeah, no, definitely. I agree, especially with the part that someone that inspires you and that you look up to. It doesn't have to be maybe a person that has way much more experience than you. It can only be a colleague that is doing her work amazing, and that you just admire how much effort and passion she puts into everything she does, you know. I totally feel identified with what Eva said, especially because I have classmates from high school that I look up to so much because of their efforts, because of their compromise to like everything they do, for all the like going after what they want, and even with all the struggles still being there and fighting for everything. I think it's beautiful, definitely. Not only seeing that we can admire people that are older than us, or that have more experience than us, or that are teachers or bosses. I mean, of course we admire all of them, but also seeing how amazing women there that are also our age, that studied with us and all that.
But just to add on something, I think it's amazing that we have these talks with, you know, with senior women like Eva, because for me, I just graduated last year, and I really love seeing like, you know, seeing where you can be in like 5 or 10 or 20 years, whatever, and especially having women in those VP position, more senior positions. Like, this is something you can do, something you can be, and it's very encouraging, I would say. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, definitely. Like seeing that it's possible, that you're when you're just starting, when you just leave a university and you see people literally like Eva, you feel that, wow, I can get there. It's possible. You just need hard work and you'll do it. Definitely.
At the same time, like hearing that, I'm like, oh yeah, right, yeah, I have a VP title. Yes, that is. Wait, when did I make it here? It's one of those moments where you're just like, oh yeah, I am one of these people. At the same time, I'm obviously looking up to other people that did like achieve things in other companies, or in just like their life from a different starting point, or things like that. Because I mean, honest to God, as a white woman out of Germany, I have a lot more privilege than a lot of other people that I've met in recent years, where you're just like, yeah, you have a so much tougher starting time, and you reached, you know, with your master's degree in mining, you reached the next level in this and this, and it's absolutely fantastic to see.
Yeah, definitely. And also, there is something amazing that I have been like discovering in this field, is that how inclusive the mining industry can be, because it's not just about like, because I am a mining engineer, I'm going to work in the mining industry. It accepts all different professions, and all different women from different aspects can be involved in the mining industry. So that's amazing how it gives us like the opportunity to grow up like in a very like, inclusive aspect, I would say.
Definitely.
So, sorry. So, Eva, I would like to ask you, what advice will you give to young women who want to succeed in this field from, well, your personal
Point of
experience?
View.
Yes.
Yeah, it's definitely make friends and ignore weird comments. I mean, everyone had at least one colleague, I assume I'm not the only one that had like the one colleague's like, oh yeah, that's very good for you as a woman. You're like, oh, that's very good for me as a person. Thank you. And like just someone right out telling me, is like, no, women don't belong in mines. I'm like, no, they do. You don't. I did not say anything back to the person, because I was like flabbergasted that happened to me in Germany. I was like, aren't we supposed to be a progressive country? So ignore the weird comments, go to the people that are nice. You don't have to deal with the people that are annoying. Like, to a certain degree, you have to handle them, but you don't have to be friends with them. You really don't have to. You can just concentrate on the nice people, and there's lots of them out there. I had great older colleagues that I was in the beginning like a little skeptical towards, when like, oh, are they going to be like non-accepting? They're like, oh, you do a great job. You know your stuff. You want to learn. Great, that's all I need. Here is all of the information, and here's all the things that I can teach you. So make friends with the right people. Do you know if it's the right person in the beginning? No, so be friendly to everyone in the beginning and then merge them out later. Would be, I guess, my advice.
Yes, definitely. And well, Rim, from your experience in the academic and in the personal experience, what advice will you give to young women in this profession?
We'll repeat the same advice Eva said. Don't listen to discouraging comments. Just don't. And be open to opportunities and ask for guidance / advice. Just, ask for friends to help you out, because they will help you if you ask for it.
Perfect, thank you. Well, now that you are just commenting on, this discouraging comments, I know it sounds redundant, but have you ever felt discouraged by, these comments or the prejudices of, being women in these industries while studying or maybe while working somewhere? I would like to know your experiences on that. We all would like to know that. Rim, do you want to go first?
Sure. As Eva said, I think we all had to deal with discouraging comments at one point or another. Like, that's just, how it is. And, I can tell people to like be strong and be stubborn and things like that. But I think the thing that worked the best for me is just when I had this discouraging comments, I would just tell the person that I don't appreciate them. And usually they would like stop. So just like tell the person that you don't appreciate what they're saying. And most often than not, they would like stop that behavior. So that's just, my experience with it.
Thank you, Rim. Thank you, Eva. So, as we are approaching to the end of this podcast, we just want to remind everyone, if you have any questions or comments, make sure to use, the Q&A button here in Zoom or in the comment section on Facebook. We already have some questions, but, we are going to answer it at the end.
Perfect.
So,
Paulina, we are missing Eva's comment on the last question. Oh, sorry.
yeah, I will say it. Yeah, Eva, please.
Sorry.
Sure. I got discouraging comments as like, what? No, women should not work in mining. Yes. I ignored them because what the hell? But my mindset was already made up, right? I was already there. So you're too late to tell me that this is not supposed to happen. But I also know of one of the women that was, I think, in the year below me in the studies. She literally became a mining engineer because someone in her high school told her she couldn't. So she did. I think in the end, she also ended up liking the field, but that's not the first step for her. It was like, oh no, I have to prove that I can do this. And so discouraging comments can also be encouraging in the end, right? You're just like, you cannot do this. Yes, I can. Sometimes you're not able to do something at that moment, but you can learn it. It, I think, encourages stubbornness in and of the end. If you're often enough told that you can't, it's sometimes just like, come on, no, I can. If you're already in the field, it's obviously easier, right? You already know that you can deliver. It's like, yeah, okay, I know my things. There's nothing that you can throw into my way that I will not be able to solve, but then I also don't have to solve it by myself, right? There's enough opportunities to ask for help. You will need help, specifically as a young person in the industry. Yes, you will need help. You don't know all of the answers. Do I know all of the answers? God, I wished. So you do need help for organizing the people, organizing your work, finding answers. So yes, we have all encountered women, people putting out bad questions. Luckily for me, at least in this industry, I have seldomly met women that were discouraging towards other women, which I have heard from other people that they had in their field, being just like, I had to fight hard, so you have to fight hard. Otherwise you will not survive. I'm like, no, that's, we try to make it easier for the next generations, right? That's the whole thing. And I have not met any women in my industry, at least ours, that had that mindset. And I think that's also a good thing to see.
Yes, definitely. Thank you so much, Eva. So, well, Reem, I have a question for you. And it's, in the academic and the professional field, do you feel that there has been a remarkable change in the participation of women?
Well, when I started mining engineering my first year, we were like a couple girls in the class. And as years went by, we're like less and less. And by the end of the program, I ended up sometimes being the only woman in the class. So, with time, I would say we lose a lot of women in the path. But for the professional word, I would say it's a bit like difficult to say, because I started with working online, so you don't know everyone around you. You know, like your team, but you don't see faces. Faces of people who are not working directly with you. But in this job and in my previous job, I've been lucky enough to work with a lot of women and to meet a lot of like women engineers. So I think that that's a very positive thing. But as I said, starting online is difficult to just have like a broad view of like all the company and people who are working around you.
Thank you. Now I have a question for Eva. And the question is, Eva, what are the challenges of holding a leadership role in this industry? What do you think here?
Well, for everyone, and that's not women specific. I think it's just like showing like the good qualities that you want from your employees and always presenting them. You're just like, sometimes I just don't want to. But also like showing, like making the right choices for who you want on your team, which is always hard in the beginning, I think. You're interviewing people and you just don't know if any of these answers help you in your team building afterwards. It was like a big struggle for me in the beginning. And dealing with people. And I think that's just like everyone in any leadership role ever, right? You have 20 people on your team, 2 don't get along, and the whole team kind of falls apart. It's sad, but it can happen this way. So you're always trying to like mediate between people in order to have a good, strong team that you want to lead to success. And in order for your team to have success, you have to do a good role. Otherwise, it all kind of like brickles apart. One advantage of being in the leadership role is that you can choose your team. So if some person is just not up to what you think is good for you, or feels like they're not respecting you in that leadership role, it's very easy to say, no, you're just not working with me. So, well, as you're in a team, you have to deal with whoever is dealt to you. In the leadership role, you have the choices, which is kind of nice. Still giving the challenge of making the right choices. But you have a choice, which is kind of nice, I have to say.
Yeah, I understand. Thank you so much.
Definitely. Thank you, Eva. Thank you, Reem. So, well, we have already some questions, and there is also one comment here in the chat. I will read first the comment, and then we're going to start with the questions, okay? So, well, the comment is from Taliat. She said, this is just a comment. I respect women in mining. I deeply understand you guys' struggle in the industry, and a lot of can be mentioned. I salute you guys and celebrate your courage. You all are legendaries. Thank you so much, Taliat, for your comment.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So now let's go with the questions. We have the first question. It's for you, Eva. It's an anonymous question. It says, do you notice any difference in mining in Germany comparing to Canada?
I would say yes. One part of it is that I think, and I've not worked like in mines in Canada, I've worked with people from mines. But I have not I've not worked in the mine itself. But the German mining industry is very tradition based. Everything is rooted in like, oh yeah, this mine was founded in 17 something. This one is from whatever. And some of these very, very old traditions are obviously against women. Women are unlucky underground, things like that. And from that, weirdly enough, you still have a lot of weird biases, even though people don't really believe things anymore. I have the feeling there's more traditional biases that I don't see as much in the Canadian mining industry, which I'm happy about.
Thank you, Eva. So, well, the next question, it will be either for Rim or for Eva. What place do you think men occupy in this issue? I think maybe it's like in generally in the industry. So I don't know if Eva or Rim would like to
Any
answer.
of you can answer. Yeah.
For me, in my experience at McGill, I've met some great guys who were very supportive and who helped a lot of women in the program to, accept a lot of opportunities and to give them a bit like more confidence and courage to apply for things and try things. And I think men can definitely make a difference when it comes to just encouraging women and not saying discouraging things. That's I think that's my take on it.
Yeah, I
Thank
think
you.
some parts are men induced, as in, hey, it has always been like that. I've been in this men's club for a long while, and I forgot to include women. Not purposefully sometimes, but it's just a thing. On the other hand, I've always had the experience that if the men had daughters that are interested in any of the technical fields in any form, they're immediately turning supportive, which is amazing, because they want to support their child. But it can be, it's somehow different for some men that either have raised a daughter that has no interest in it. And there I'm really not sure what comes first, right? But there's obviously women and as men that don't have any interest in the technical fields, and that is completely fine. But I have sometimes the feeling that men that raise daughters that are that way, they're like, oh no, women in general should not be there. On the other hand, if they do have a daughter that as soon as like she shows interest, they're like, oh yes, all women should be supported in this field. So it's just a matter of like opening your mind towards everyone. And yes, the personal experience helps, but it was good for me to see for some people in my field where I had the feeling they were changing their mind just by raising daughters.
Yes, definitely. I think that, well, men in this issue, well, their place should be being supportive, of course, not waiting, as Eva said, to have a daughter so that they can live it from personal experience, but also to maybe stand in your colleagues' shoes for a moment, and think how hard it is for them and what issues they encounter that you don't. So how you can help to, well, improve that environment in the industry, right?
Yes, thank you, Eva and Daniela. Well, and Rim too for your comments. Also, we have other anonymous question, and it's What's the difficulty you encounter in mining engineering greater than, less than, or equal than what you expected?
I'm gonna go first on that one. I want to say all of the things were greater than I expected because I expected 0 problems. I was going in out of like a very bubblegum world where it's just like everything was great, right? I had no bias and everyone around me did not really have one. So I went in expecting 0 conflict, and therefore, as my expectation was so leveled, if I encountered anything where people were like, "Oh, but no," or "We don't have a women's bathroom," that was something I had never thought of before. So immediately there were like greater problems than I expected, but a lot of them were not great problems. So it's just like I think my expectation was completely fine. I think everyone should have that expectation with that go to things with an open mind.
Definitely. Well, Prim, there is something you would like to add?
I think my expectations were different from the problems I actually faced. I was expecting, maybe having difficulties getting included in the program in like during my studies, but that actually I had no difficulties at all. It was great. And I didn't expect, for example, when I would go to the mine that, they wouldn't have like clothes for me, that I would have to like wear clothes for men and they wouldn't fit. I never like thought about it. It's never been something that I thought about. So yeah, I think I wouldn't say like equal or greater, just like maybe different. I didn't expect those problems at all.
Thank you. Thank you so much. There's another question from an anonymous attendee for Eva, and it is, do you think women can reach as high as men in terms of authority in a company, in mining, of course?
Well, in any company, honest to God, yes, obviously. I think it makes no difference if you're male or female. The authority comes from your knowledge and from your leadership skills. Developing leadership skills is sometimes more ingrained in like certain things that are done with boys when they're children than with women, which is something that has to change. But in and of itself, lots of the respect that people have for their leader, for their boss, for their teammates comes from the work they do, the work they deliver, and the way they treat people. And that is very much equal between men and women, and therefore I think it makes absolutely no difference.
Thank you, Eva. Definitely, I totally agree with you, especially in the part that because sometimes these are qualities that boys as kids are taught. We see them more in leadership roles maybe, but well, just as we were mentioning before, having the fortune of being raised by parents that encouraged us girls being strong and being courageous and having our own thoughts and determination, it's key also to find more people, I feel, for more women in leadership roles. But definitely the key point at the end is your hard work, how you treat people, and everything like that. Okay, we have another question from Ivan Dion. It is, which qualities do you believe women bring into male teams which makes them perform better? Any of you guys can start.
As Rims looks like she's still thinking, I'm just going to start. I think it's sometimes just throwing a woman in there helps awareness of what they're talking about, which is great. As term of qualities, it's very often like a listening skill that is a more feminine trait, I guess, or raised, born, I don't know, trait. And sometimes just a different point of view. It's just if you throw someone in with a different point of view and you bounce off ideas of that person, you get a different answer. And you want different answers because you want all of the answers. So having that together is just, I think, one of the things that helps. I think there's plenty of studies out there that prove that like teams of mixed gender are the best performing ones. And I think we should always keep it that way.
Thank you, Eva. Brim, do you have any comments?
It's difficult for me to say that, you know, those traits in women or whatnot would make a team more performant, because we're going for the idea that we're equal and that we're not like going to perform better. But I agree with Eva that like actually diverse teams, you know, perform better just because they have different point of views and different ideas, and that can be very positive, I think.
Thank you so much. Well, our last question is from Celeste Martinez. Have you ever heard a colleague talk about this issue or be aware of the difficulties faced by women in mining? I am very proud of how far women have come in mining and hope this is just the beginning. Great. Thank you, Celeste. Any of you want to start?
Eva, do you want to go first?
Sure.
Okay.
I was just like, have I ever heard colleagues talking about it? Yes. So in one of the teams I worked in Germany, it was a huge point because there was just none there. There were no women, and therefore it was like a huge thing to be like, oh yeah, we're gonna have to hire some of these. And it more sounded like these and not them or anything like these weird abstract of people. And how can we incorporate them? I'm like, there's nothing extra you have to do. It's literally hiring a new colleague and welcoming them to the team. Yes, having a women's bathroom on the same floor is advantage, but it can be on the different floor. It's fine. But it's nothing that I have heard otherwise too much about, besides like addressing it as a concern where I did not understand why it would be a concern, because you're just hiring a new person. Please treat them like a person.
Yes, I feel that that's the main point. Please treat them as persons. Rim, do you have any other insights?
Yeah, for me, I had a very positive experience with that, either at my workplace or for my extracurriculars or when I was a student. Like every time, you know, there are great men around me who are like, I know women have a bit more difficult time adjusting in the mining industry. We need to like make it so it's not so bad for them. And also, for example, at CMG, like all the guys were like, oh yeah, we need to like do something to encourage women participation in the coming years. And when I was a student, actually, I was applying to be president of the student society at one point. And there were a lot of guys around me who were like, oh, we'd really love to have a woman as a president. We only had guys for like the 5 past years, and we'd really love to see a woman in that position. And that's always been very encouraging. I would say great experiences.
Thank you, Rim. Thank you so much, both of you. So, well, with this, we conclude the podcast today. Thank you, everyone, for attending. Also, thank you, Eva and Rim, for sharing your experiences, your thoughts, with us, and for answering all of our questions, all the attendees' questions. We really appreciate you being here. And yeah, thank you. We hope to see you soon in maybe a future episode of the Mining Experience podcast.
Continue being an inspiration too.
Thank
you so
please,
much.
Please do. Thank you so much.
Thank you for this podcast. It's been great answering your questions and hearing Eva's insights as well. It's been amazing. Thank you all.
Yeah, thanks all. It was a great experience to be here, and If you ever do another interesting podcast, no, you always do. Feel free to invite me back. Thank you all for your work, and also for Rim for your insights. It was really interesting to hear.
Thank you,
Thank you.
guys. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye.
Thank
See you.
you. Bye.
Bye.